It's your pal Sam, and I'm here to take you back to the highlights of the past 90 days. Welcome to Back 90. For our first update, things are progressing in our work setup here at GSI. This year, some of our members have returned to the office to work.
As we progress through the end of the pandemic, GSI continues to implement flexible work program for its members where each has a choice among remote, hybrid, and on-site working after completing the 6-month probationary status. This year, many of our team members are coming into the office to work. It's great to see our team working on-site again after more than a year of lockdown and restrictions.
And speaking of coming back, our President and CEO Ian Moses has come back to the Philippines this April.
This is the first time Ian has come as President and CEO of GSI, as he had been serving as Regional Director of Guild's Manila team before the establishment of GSI in 2020.
So, welcome Ian, and in celebration of the team's success for the past 2 years, we indulged in a fan celebration during our Freedom Party last April 22.
Held at the Saida Hotel, our teams had fun socializing, jamming, and dining together in celebration of the successful 2 years of GSI. President and CEO Ian Moses, who visited us from Australia, gave a special message to the team, highlighting the value of the team in GSI's success. Prior to the Freedom Party, our team also enjoyed a free movie screening. It was a great weekend for the team.
Nothing beats learning. 2 more thought leader sessions were held this quarter.
National University Director of Faculty Services, Ian Denares, gave an inspiring and insightful session on employee gratitude and well-being last February 3. The show garnered 509 views and 625 engagements. Meanwhile, GSI Head of People and Culture, Dean Estidola, gave a powerful message on the role of women in breaking the bias. This special edition of Thought Leaders was in celebration of Women's Month in the Philippines, aligned with this year's International Women's Day theme, #Breaking the Bias. The episode garnered 66 views and 45 engagements. You can view these learning sessions on our YouTube channel, Guild Solutions Inc.
Advocating for a world free of gender bias, GSI conducted a Women's Month campaign throughout March.
With the theme #Breaking the Bias, our teams expressed their support of the international campaign by giving their take on the question, what does it mean to break the bias? The quotes, together with their photos doing the #Break the Bias post, were posted on our socials. Blogs related to gender bias in the workplace and thought leader sessions were also implemented to advocate for the awareness.
New year, new partner. GSI now partners with MindU to provide mental health care programs and services to our team.
MindU and GSI launched its partnership last March 1 with a 1-hour interactive online session with speaker Ms. Rhea Villa and host Ms. Riza Diaz. The partnership aims to deliver effective mental health care programs and services to our team. Each member has an account and can book a consultation with a psychologist on MindU's portal that has a great user-friendly interface. This will help our team in taking care of their mental health so they can be their best every day.
And those are the latest updates for GSI this quarter. But before you go, take a look at your screen to see which posts we're trying to fill in this month. And that's it for this quarter's roundup. For more information, visit guildsolutionsinc.com.au or follow us on our social media. Once again, my name is Sam. Thank you for watching. See you in July. We click the button and do another back 9.
when changes are not favorable for us, that's when we struggle. Because when change is presented to us, we consider two things. First, you have a logical response, your rational response. Is this right? Is this good for me? Another is an emotional response. Changes, they always bring emotions. We have a hard time accepting changes when we don't know why we need to go through the change. What is your why? When we don't understand our why, it makes it harder for us to accept the change and to stick to the change. What is the purpose? Why do you need to make this change? So the second is whenever change is presented to you, sometimes or oftentimes, change can make you feel anxious because in most cases, we don't know what's going to happen. We feel uncertain. So I suggest that you ask, you get more information, you research, you find out more about, the changes that's presented to you. And the last, make and break connection. People find it hard to make the changes that they need to make because they're connected to the past. A past habit, things, memories. We cling so much to the past that it prevents us from embracing what's new. One suggestion is by creating ceremonies or rituals to signify the end of a chapter. Apart from that, we also have ceremonies for welcoming change. There's a party, there's a new member of the team, then we have a welcoming party. That is part of a ceremony to welcome a particular change. These ceremonies, these rituals, they're a way for us to motivate ourselves to stick to the change. Always remember the 3 A's. The 3 A's are assess, adjust, accelerate. If you're going through changes, you're making changes, and then things are not going right or you're not seeing any progress, go to the first one, which is assess. What's going well, what's not working out. And depending on what you're able to find out, then you go to the second A, which is adjust. Adjust your actions, adjust your behavior, adjust your beliefs. And when you're able to do that, then things would start to accelerate, which is the third A. So always remember that. Assess, adjust, accelerate.
This is Enabling Media, enabling content through new media.
Hello and welcome to this edition of Thought Leaders, where we feature great ideas, interesting insights, and inspiring stories. It's me again. My name is Gemma Nalansang, and I will be your host for today. In our previous episode of Thought Leaders, we sat down with Lynn Estedola, where she shared a message of empowerment with her talk on the role of women in breaking the bias. You can catch that session in our YouTube channel. For more learning sessions, job opportunities, and news about the company, you can follow us on our social media platforms, Guild Solution Inc. We are on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. For this month, we will be featuring a topic for organizations that will help them create a more motivated workplace and culture. Today, we will listen to our very own Jel Nolasco as he discusses how we can motivate our employees and also talk about corporate culture. This episode of Thought Leaders is made possible by Guild Solutions Inc. and Enabling Media. For our viewers in the Philippines, we will be flashing information on your screen on how you can request for a certificate of attendance throughout this event. So, to avoid distractions and ensure maximum participation, just be reminded that the form will only be made available at certain times in this event, so please watch out for our announcement. And looking at our comments for today, wow, we have a lot of people watching us. So let me call my ever present partner Pancho Madlansakay, who is with me today to greet our audience. Hello, Pancho. Pancho, I think you're on mute. Welcome back.
Yeah, sorry about yes. Hi, good morning, Jem. Good morning, everyone. Yes, we're seeing quite a lively audience for today's session. Let's meet some of them. Watching, well, most of our viewers right now are watching via Facebook. Christian Argon Mota from PUC Lopez, good morning. We're also seeing Shania Duo, good morning from PUP Santa Mesa. Oh, a lot of students from PUP watching right now. JV Malyari, also from PUP Santa Mesa, good morning. Ruth Saldua, also from PUP Santa Mesa. Good morning. I guess that's it for now. Jem?
Thank you, Pancho, and welcome to all of the participants or to all of the viewers on our social media sites. Welcome, everyone. To our audience, as Pancho mentioned, get your notes and questions ready for our speaker because we will have a question and answer portion later. I'm sure that you would be asking a lot of questions to our speaker so that you can learn more today. All right, so let's not delay this further. We are now transitioning to the main show. You're watching Thought Leaders with Jel Nolasco.
Together, we'll win. Face challenges. Overcome obstacles. Celebrate triumphs. A fusion of more than 50 years of exemplary business management and a passion for innovation. With trust at the center of it all. Life's definitely at ease. This is life. This is life at GSI.
This is Enabling Media, enabling content through new media.
Hello again to those who just came in. Welcome to Thought Leaders, where we feature great ideas, interesting insights, and inspiring stories. I'm Gemma Nalansang, your host for today. So let us now jump into the main part of the show and introduce our speaker for today. Our speaker is no stranger to us. He is a very experienced leader and communicator. He has over 15 years of experience in the business process outsourcing industry with more than 10 years experience in managing medium to large scale operation. A people person, he has been on several managerial positions across different notable companies like Five Property Limited, Macquarie Group, Teletech, Dell, and eTelecare Global Solutions. His professional experiences spread throughout business operations, including management, customer service, and development and facilitation of modules and trainings. With his adept management experience in management and business, he is now the chief operating officer and vice president of Guild Solutions Inc. He continues to expand this by pursuing his studies. He is a former graduate of Associate of Arts from the University of the Philippines and is currently taking masteral in business administration. Without further ado, Friends, here to talk about employee motivation and corporate culture is our very own Vice President and COO, Jel Nolasco.
Thanks, Jem. You had to say my grandiose title twice. How are
Yes,
you?
always, always.
How are things, Jem?
Uh, Things are very good here, and I hope that things are also good there in the office. A lot of
Yep,
our employees are back in the office.
that's correct. Just for context, Jem is actually living in the northern areas of Metro Manila, so I hope everything is okay there. And the office where I am in right now is in BGC. So yeah, thanks, Jem. Shall I go?
Yes, you may go,
All
Jel.
right, cool. Thanks, Jem. Throughout this show, I was hoping all of you who are watching right now could participate in the discussion by typing in your comments that will be flashing one way or another throughout the conversation. But before I start, a pleasant morning to all of you. Greetings from our office here in BGC. Again, I'm not gonna say my name and my title anymore because everybody knows that. But let's go and jump straight ahead to our topic for today, which is corporate culture. What we're going to try and achieve today would be to give you a brief overview of um, of the of the role of the individual in honing the company's or the company's corporate culture. The wide encompassing corporate culture topic will be discussed by no other than our head of operations, Ray Cabe, within the next fortnight. So for now, I'll just touch on the individual. Before we proceed further, I would just like to let everyone know that some of the topics that I'm going to discuss today are not really, did not come from me directly. These are products of thorough research that we've conducted for the past 2 weeks. So if you want to do further reading, these are the books that we suggest you take a look at, just so you could read further and all that. After this discussion, the recorded or the replay version of this talk will be posted on our social media sites anyway, so you could go back and preview these references again. All right. Now, this talk will focus on two important aspects of the role of the individual in shaping the company culture. First would be his or her emotions. The second would be motivation. Now, what's the difference between the two? We'll discuss that later. Before we go into the hard details, what are you feeling right now? Maybe you could help us understand if you're, I don't know, it's 11:08 a.m. Some of you might be taking lunch at this time. Some of you may be hungry, some of you may be happy, some of you may be sad and all that. Go ahead and type it in the comment section and direct Sam if you could flash them one by one on the screen so I could see them. Um, I hope people are participating. There are 84 participants right now, so please just go ahead and type in your answer to the questions. What are you feeling right now? Are you anxious? Are you feeling hungry? Are you feeling happy? Are you feeling excited? Um, what's your overarching feeling at the moment? Are people participating, Sam? No? Oh, all right. Okay. Let's just wait for the comments to come in. And in the coming slides, you'll understand why I'm actually asking these questions over to you. Oh, Yil, I hope I'm saying that right. Yil is saying she's feeling blessed. Ah, just like a social media Facebook status. But that's good to hear. At least you're feeling positive. Sam is saying feeling drained. Oh, it could be. Look, when the academic year shifted, I'm not sure what the dates are anymore, but it could be that Sam is a student trying to finish papers and all that. That's why she's feeling drained. We feel you. We've been there. Jem is feeling excited. Jittery. Wow. Quite a quite a quite a broad vocabulary we have here. Thanks, Dave. Wendell is saying he's feeling happy. Very good. Very positive feelings coming through on our social media. Ray is feeling curious. Ray, our head of operations, is saying he's feeling curious. Ray is always curious anyway. So what's the difference, right? Thanks, Ray. All right. Um, Oh, Maan, happy birthday. Maan is saying she's feeling excited. Thank you. Thank you. Well, all right. We'll get back to those feelings later, and I'll let you know why I asked them. Now, um, maybe I want to understand from our audience as well. If you could just take a look at take a look at your previous memories, the most memorable ones. I don't know, maybe when you and your family had a picnic at the park, when you watched a movie. Which ones do you remember most? Maybe you could help me. Um, this is a good sharing moment, but don't overshare. Yeah. Just type in the memories that you feel are the most powerful, the ones that you could easily remember and relate to. Just go ahead and type them in on the comment section. We'll flash them one by one, maybe just around two or three. Um, Important memories for the interest of time. And I'll tell you mine. I could remember when I was young, and I'm not sure if my sister or my dad is watching this, but when I was young, I would remember that because we used to live beside a school. I remember when I was young, I would actually go up the stage, and at the top baluster of the staircase, I would pretend that it's a mic and sing one of Gary Valenciano's song, one of his songs. And I can't even remember the name, but I know the tune, and I'm not gonna sing it today because I don't want to destroy your day. So yeah, that's one of the most powerful memories I have when I was a child. So if you have, please go ahead and type them in. Clarzin is saying celebrating birthdays with family. Oh wow, yeah, that could be really very memorable. Do we have more, Sam? Hiking in Mount Pulag. Rona is saying that's one of her most memorable um, memories. It could be mixed emotions, isn't it? I mean, climbing up, running out of breath, but finally getting on top. You see the sea of clouds, which is very gratifying. I would imagine. Nerissa is saying high school life, which is again something we can all relate to because it's full of ups and downs. Thank you, Nerissa. Do we have more? Just one more. Passing the board exam. I hope I'm saying your name right. Karen Joy, congratulations again, which is something most of us can relate to, passing the most difficult exam of your life, really a life-changing, life-defining moment. So congratulations. Again, full of ups and downs. It's not just a joyous moment, but the journey to get to these successes um, is something that would make you cherish, the climax or the peak more, or appreciate it more. And I'll let you know why these details are very important in a moment. Now, I'm not sure if you've seen if you're familiar with these characters. The blue one um, is sadness. The the other Lady Joy, they actually are characters from the movie Inside Out from Disney, and it's a good movie because it teaches you emotional intelligence. So if you haven't really watched this movie yet, I'm encouraging all of you to spend an hour or two to appreciate the movie and understand what emotional intelligence is all about. Now, what I wanted to highlight in there is at the very near towards the end of the movie, joy and sadness actually learned to coexist. And when joy allowed sadness to enter into, to touch the control board, the control panel, so that they actually share, creating memories, it became more fulfilling and more understanding. I mean, more appreciative, more life defining for the main character. So this is the reason why the memories that you had in the past would become more meaningful, more defining, more life changing if they are a mix of all the different challenges that you would experience versus it's just sadness or versus it's just happiness. It's always a journey. And the reason why it's relevant to our discussion today is because the emotions of an individual shape the corporate culture in ways we can imagine, in ways that we cannot imagine, or maybe we can, but we often overlook them from day to day. One of which is, again, if we're going to take a look at both of our characters, if you're overly happy, then that is actually toxic happiness. If you're overly sad, then that's toxic sadness. I've put in some examples in there on how they will react given a certain situation, given a certain challenging situation. So, for example, if you approach Joy on the right side of your screen, and you tell her that you're not successful, you failed an exam, you got cheated, you had a breakup or whatever. Toxic happy people will just easily tell you, oh, just move on, forget it, just stand up, dust off, um move on. Now the toxic sad people will just cry with you, and then that's all right. But if you cry on for like 2 to 3 weeks, wallowing on your sadness without actually getting anywhere, that's not going to bring you fulfillment. So empathy is the balance between toxic happiness and toxic sadness, and that's what we need to achieve if we want to get the most out of our most out of our staff. Um, and the reason why we're discussing this is because going to quickly touch on the topic of cognition. What is cognition? Um, Cognition is a function of the brain. It's when you appreciate rational understanding of what's going on. So, for example, if you're listening to me right now and your brain is processing it, then your cognitive functions are actually coming into play. It's also the function of the brain that allows you to suspend emotions. So if you are I don't know, maybe watching a movie and suddenly it gets very emotional and you wanted to cry and on, but cry and all, but you're seated beside, I don't know, maybe someone very important to you, and you don't want that person to see you crying, you suspend your emotions. That's your cognitive functions. Um, it also helps you strategically comprehend your experience. So, um, when you went to a museum, you appreciate art, you see that it's full of colors and all that. That's just seeing it. But by the time you, when but by the time you process what the art is all about, when it was created, who created it, what was the life like for this artist into that led to the creation of that painting, that's a cognitive function. And the last function of your cognition, the very last importance of the cognition function of the cognitive function of the brain is to make sense and solve a problem. Now, why are these important? There is what we call, there are two kinds of dissonances of deviations that happens on our brain, that is important for us leaders to understand, so we could pull our staff back into the engaged state. The first is cognitive dissonance. um, I think um, the easiest situation to paint for us to understand what cognitive dissonance is about is someone's perception of his or her bonus, and then suddenly the pay comes and he's like, oh my gosh, this is not what I was expecting. So it's an emotional experience caused by a perception that are incongruent with reality. The next is emotional dissonance. It's when you're feeling something, but the organization is expecting you to feel something else. So you become detached to the organization, to the organization that you belong to. Now, why are these important? It's because when you're thinking different from what you're supposed to experience, or if you're feeling different from what you're supposed to feel, you actually become detached and you become demotivated. So it's important for leaders to understand, or to at least to troubleshoot issues, guide people to change before they approach a situation where they're completely detached from the organization. Say, for example, for you to avoid cognitive dissonance, you have to set expectations from the beginning that this is what's going to happen, this is what you will get, yada yada yada. And then you guide the individual throughout the process so that before the end result is actually released, or before you get to the end result, it's not a surprise anymore. There's also a difference between attitude and emotions. They're not the same. Attitudes are mostly how we behave. Emotions are the ones we experience when we undergo something. Now, um, why am I pointing the difference between attitude and emotions? It's important, if you're going to lead an organization, for you to understand your vision of yourself first, your family, and then you go a little bit larger, your team, and then a little bit larger, your organization. Now, why is it important for you to always start with yourself? Of all of the slides that we've already gone to, you're going to control, or you're going to manage someone else's emotions, someone else's attitudes, someone else's behaviors. And it's important that if you're not able to regulate your own emotions, if you're not able to regulate your own attitude, your behaviors, you won't be able to lead others. And it's important that even before you dream of managing a team or a large organization, you're able to control what's happening around you. So start small before you actually dream of managing something bigger. Now, why is that? It's because if you're not able to control something small, then definitely you won't be able to control something big. And when I say small, start with your emotions. Your emotions are very important in managing someone else's. In emotional intelligence, it's important for you to define your own emotions, the things you've been through, before you are able to help someone else. It's like basic. Even in first aid training, that's the first thing that they tell you. Before you help others, you have to make sure that you're able to help yourself first. Now, how do you how do you come up with an important um, vision and deliver it into making everyone appreciate what's going on? First is you have to write down your vision. And this is the reason why when you go to companies, all of their corporate culture, all of their vision, their mission statement are written all over to remind people that this is what the company stands for. Now, maybe most of your staff would just say, "I just came here for the pay." Maybe that's true because they signed the contract, but later on, we'll show you the different levels of motivation an individual will have, and people will start to realize that, oh, this is not the only reason why I'm here. But the first and most important thing in achieving a goal and the corporate culture that you're actually dreaming of for your institutions would be to write them down and put them all over so that all people are reminded day to day, or maybe every hour, every minute. Not sure how you want to do it. For them to commit to those words, they have to see it and be reminded of it every single day. If you can embed it on your logo, if you can embed it on your corporate logos, on your colors, things like that, do it because it's reminding people of what it's about. The second is commit to it. If you want people to assimilate the culture that you're trying to project, or that you want to have, then you must project it. So we leaders must lead by example. So if we want our staff to be resilient, so we need to have a resilient mind. If we want our staff to be reliable, then we have to be reliable ourselves. If we want our staff to show up on time, then we have to show up on time too, which is kind of basic. So by the time you actually coach them about their behavior and etc., it's easy because you can easily tell them, look, you can do this by doing that because I've done it. Yep. So if you don't have moral ascendancy, it would be very difficult to tell your staff, this is how you do it, this is how you do it, because they're not going to believe you. The next thing you need to do is to review. So schedule periodic reviews. If you're for large scale companies, what we actually do is we send periodic surveys to our staff to understand their perception about how we're managing, um, or if for us to understand as leaders, if our staff are starting to be disconnected. So we need to schedule reviews so we'd know our progress. We could measure our progress too. And last but not the least, or actually, I think which is one of the most important among these four, is to schedule celebrations. Now, when you celebrate, you have to mean it. You're not going to celebrate just because you want to drink or eat. You have to celebrate, and when you celebrate, you have to be very specific on what you're celebrating about. So, say for example, when we had that party in Seda. Was that last week or a couple of weeks back? We were very clear on what we were celebrating. We're celebrating that we're able to see Ian again, Ian, our president, um, because the pandemic is almost over and our past 2 years of being locked down did not feel like we were locked down at all because everybody is still very productive. So that's what we were celebrating at that time. So again, when you celebrate, you have to be very specific, and we're trying to point to people this is what we're celebrating. They have to understand and appreciate what we are indeed celebrating. Now, let's go to the second part, motivation. So we've discussed what may go on in a person's the behavioral aspect and the attitude. Now let's discuss motivation and how it may affect a our corporate culture. Motivation is defined as forces within a person. It's within a person that affect the direction, intensity, and persistence of voluntary behavior. I think the most important words in this definition are highlighted on this on the phrases as well. And I think the most essential of the words that I've highlighted would be the word voluntary. Nobody forced him or her to act that way. That is motivation. So it's always coming from within. Now, how do we there's nothing you can do about motivation because motivation is it is what it is. um People would have different and every individual has different levels or a different stimulus for their motivation. And there are many theories about a person's motivation, but today we're just going to touch on three for the interest of time. First would be um, intrinsic versus extrinsic theory. The second one I think would be a bit more familiar for our audience. It's the Maslow hierarchy of needs. The last would be the four drive theory. Now, before we delve into the details and before we get very technical, we're not going to pretend that we're psychologists or psychiatrists. So we're just going to touch on this very lightly. Um, we're going to have slides for these theories, but the takeaways that I would hope all of you who are watching right now would take away from these theories will just be for the intrinsic versus intrinsic. We just need to understand where the fulfillment of an individual may come from, whether it's something that is intrinsic to him, it's already within embedded within his or her personality, or is it something that we can influence? Next would be the Maslow hierarchy of needs. This theory has been debunked many times, but it's a good guide for leaders to understand a person's priorities. So whenever we're targeting problems in our organization, no matter how complex they are, the Maslow hierarchy of needs is actually a good and systematized organization of ideas that we can follow if we want to resolve whatever's happening. If there's just so much chaos and we want to systematically resolve what's going on in our organizations. The last would be the four drive theory, and the importance for this for leaders is for us to appreciate that each individual will have their own levels of motivation, will have their own drives. Now, how do we attack them? How do we detect them? Or how do we at least classify the different levels of motivation or the different motivation stimulus that each person would have? Now, let's touch on the first theory, which I think would give us a better appreciation of how a person can, if you're looking at someone, you'd understand why he or she is actually behaving that way. The the intrinsic versus extrinsic theory of motivation classifies that or asserts that motivation can actually either be intrinsic or extrinsic. And when I say intrinsic, it's innate. It's something that's coming from you, and it's not influenced by anyone else. So, say for example, if I say that I'm a person who's motivated by a company that has that's very principled, that delivers that resolves world hunger or anything like that, then that is an intrinsic motivation. Nobody told you to be motivated like that. So the motivation is actually coming from within. Extrinsic motivation is when you have motivational factors that are beyond the individual's control. So I've put in some examples in there, like incentives, pay, because these are the most obvious. The only ones a company can easily influence definitely would be the intrinsic extrinsic motivation factors. Intrinsic motivation is something that's already innate on the individual, and no matter what you do, you're not going to change them. You won't be able to change them. You might be able to influence it, but what this year is trying to say is that a person might be born with it, or maybe the environment may have influenced it one way or another, but in the short term we as leaders would not be able to shape it anymore. And this the reason why it's important for us leaders and HR recruitment departments to have a culture fit interview during the recruitment process is for us to understand if that person's intrinsic motivation fits in the company's in the overall large in the overall scheme of things. Because if they won't, then we're going to have a difficult time motivating these people if they just are not aligned with our culture and values. The next theory that we mentioned earlier would be the Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And for some of you who are watching right now, I think this is discussed even early as college. So it won't be a surprise for all of you anymore. How you read this is like the food pyramid. So you start at the bottom, going up. So again, this is a good guide for us leaders to navigate through what could be a chaotic situation, and for us to resolve the issues one by one. So you start from the bottom going up. So before you actually even try to attempt to resolve someone else's self-actualization issues, you try to resolve the basic ones first. So for companies, definitely the pay is something that you resolve first. If that's a big issue, then that needs to be resolved before you go to the psychological needs and the self-fulfillment needs for career development and things like that. Because if you're not able to resolve the first largest pyramid, then it's all of the other things would crumble. So that's how you attack that's how I suggest you attack the problem using using Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Again, this has been debunked many times, and I'm not going to pretend that I'm the expert in this theory, but it's a good guide for us to navigate through chaos if ever there exists one. The last theory, and maybe the most challenging to explain, but I think is a good guide for us leaders, would be the theory of learned needs. And if you want to read through more about it, then please do so, because it's a very interesting theory. And in here, what it aims to explain, what it aims to paint a picture for all of us, is each individual will have different drives in their lives. And it's something that we're not able to influence as leaders in the short term. It could be a number of different factors. Maybe they grew up in an environment that influences them to behave like that. Maybe it's genetic, which is, I think, most number of researches are still trying to prove right now. So there may be different sources of a person's drive, but we're not going to dwell on that. We're going to dwell on their existing drives. The um, first, well, drive is the drive to acquire. So these people are a little bit materialistic. So they're looking at acquiring the most number of I don't know. So if you're someone who's very motivated to get a new phone whenever it's out. When if a new car came out, if you want to get it right away, so that's your drive. And some people are actually driven like that. So if you're a leader of an organization where people are happy whenever there's a raffle, then most probably most of your staff have the drive to acquire, if that makes sense. I think that's the best picture I can paint um, for that specific category. The next is a bit more emotional. It's a bit more of an emotional need, the drive to bond. So some people would need to feel that they're part of a wolf pack in order for them to function well. So, and I'm not sure if most of you can relate, but if someone mentioned earlier that one of the most memorable experience he or she has would be when he or she was in high school. So maybe the drive to bond was fulfilled when you were in high school. So you felt like you belonged. You went through the same challenges, and you were successful in overcoming them. So your drive to bond was actually fulfilled at that time. Most probably, that same drive will be the same, well, drive that would, drive you to look for an organization where you will feel like you fit in. So I hope that makes sense. If that doesn't make any sense, please type into the comments. I would explain it further. The third is the drive to comprehend. Now, this is very interesting because not a lot of us, um, not a lot of us, well, understands or initially thought that a person could be interested in information because he or she looks at information as a commodity. Ooh. So, there are certain people who are driven to acquire the most number of information that they can because they want to hold on to that so they could feel important. I'm not saying that the Mariteses or our neighbors have the drive to comprehend, yeah. What I'm trying to say is that just some people, don't care if they have money, don't care if they're associated with someone, as long as they have the most important information in as long as they hold on to that information, and they're when they share it to someone, they feel like they're in control. I hope that makes sense. Again, if that doesn't, then please type it in the comments and I'll explain it further. The last is the drive to defend. um Look, some people would think of them as war free, confrontational people, but really they just want to feel that they won. Um, I think everybody wants to feel that. It's just that some people would have that drive if they're pushed to their limits. This is fight or flight mode. Maybe what I'm trying to show you on this screen is that one person can have different categories, different engagement levels on any of these drives, but we as leaders should not in any way push our employees to a fight or flight mode, because that would link to theory number two, Maslow's hierarchy of needs, that if you're trying to threaten their livelihood away from them, they're going to be more rabid. They're going to be more confrontational. They'll exhaust all efforts in order to win, because again, you're already taking away their livelihood. So if you put all of these together, just to review the first, the very first slide about theories that we covered earlier. Again, my what I was hoping you could take away from this would be number one, just understand where the fulfillment is coming from. So understand the root cause. If you understand the root cause, then you'd be able to influence your staff. If you're able to influence your staff, then you can effectively drive them into the culture that you want to have for your company. Also, if you have the opportunity, um, filter the individuals that would be culture fit, because if you don't, these people will just have a difficult time fitting in your company and they won't be aligned with what you are trying to achieve. And eventually they'll realize, your staff will realize, oh, I don't belong here, then they just leave. So it's very important that during the recruitment process, you already understand if this person is going to be a culture fit or not by asking the right questions. Ask them situational questions about their past, how they behaved, and things like that. Then, if it aligns to your organization, then by all means get one. But I'm not saying that you don't aim for diversity. By all means, aim for diversity. But there should always be a foundation of common culture, because if you're going to miss that, then you're going to have a difficult time driving your organization into that one goal that you all of you would want to be in. For Maslow hierarchy of needs, if they said this a number of times, again, just understand your priorities. And in order to systematically resolve your issues, start from the most essential ones before you try to resolve the most complex ones. And then lastly, the four drive theory when you have effectively classified where your staff actually belongs, or at least at that specific situation, he or she is behaving in a way that you would let you understand if he's on a fight or flight mode, or if the drive is coming from a certain need to acquire, then it would be easy to resolve. So these are the only takeaways that I want you to get from all of the theories that I presented today. Now, to sum it up, I just want to go back to the slide again. In order for all of these theories to come together, in order for them to be productive, you have to understand yourself first. If you're not able to control yourself, then you won't be able to control another person. And the most important aspect of leadership and influence is emotional regulation. So if something, you have to understand what ticks you, you have to understand what motivates you, because if you understand those two on all the other aspects of your emotional intelligence, then it's going to be easy for you to influence and motivate others. If you can, if you have, work on your family too. These are the people you go home to at the end of the day. So if your family is all over the place, it's going to be very, 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 and extremely difficult for you to drive your organization. If your office is not in order, and if your home is not in order too, then it's a reflection of who you are as a leader. So you need to resolve these two things. I'm not saying that all of the aspects of family can be resolved. They're victims of domestic violence and things like that. But that can be resolved in another way. And if it's your fault, it's not anybody else's fault. Most especially for women who are victims of domestic violence, it's not their fault. It's the other person's fault. But what I'm trying to say is, for us leaders who cause the disturbance in our families ourselves, then we must learn how to fix that, because it's not in any way different from what we're going to address when we're in the office. Um, and then lastly, before you even dream of managing a large organization, you have to manage your team first, at least on a corporate level. So if you're able to manage a team, then it would be easy for you, or at least easier for you, to manage a large and a more complex organization. In a team, you'll just be managing maybe one, two, I don't know, 10, 15 people for BPOs. For large organizations, you'd be managing 10 different departments maybe. And in order for you to effectively manage these organizations, yes, you have to know emotional regulation. You have to enrich your emotional intelligence, your technical know-hows. You have to improve on them as well. Continuous learning, study, don't get tired of learning. But before the difference between managing a team and managing an organization itself is, well, apart from the sheer size of the people you're managing, there will be more stakeholders involved in managing organizations. So different levels of motivation, different interests. Say for example, if you're already managing a stakeholder, then they will have different drives. If you're just managing your employees, then definitely the first thing that comes to mind would be, okay, these my staff would need to have fair pay, career their career aspirations would need to be addressed and things like that. So yep, that's that's your priority for them. And then if you have stakeholders, that's going to be a different priority because the profitability interests come in and things like that. Then if you have clients, definitely their KPIs and savings would come into play. So in order for you to even move up the corporate ladder, you have to learn how to manage these different levels of motivations that the people around you would have. And just to reiterate, in order for you to effectively manage motivations and different levels of or different kinds of stimulus of their motivation, write down your own, commit to it, review from time to time, and then celebrate. Even if it's just your personal goals, have time for yourself, have time for your families, have time for your teams, and have time for your organization. So before even dreaming of owning a larger circle, start on your own circle first, and then jump another circle again, then jump another the next circle, and then jump onto the larger circle when you're ready. Um, I think the last thing that I want to um, I want all of you who are listening right now to have a key takeaway on before I end this talk would be that an individual would have their own um, motivation, and it's not relevant for you to go back into history to try and understand what's going on in their heads and all that. Always focus on the now, and then once you have addressed the now, focus on the future. It's very seldom that you need to come back and focus on the past. The only time you go back to the past, if you're not able to address the root cause of the present, even if you have already dug onto the most number of evidences that you need to present in order to come up with relevant action items. That's the only time you go to the past. The past would always bring up a lot of messes. So unless you are emotionally ready, and yes, I'm still talking about work, Ray. I see he's smiling. I'm still talking about work, not relationships. The only time you dig on the past is um, if you can't get the evidences that you need right now in order to address the root cause. That's the only time you need to go back. Um, Now, some other cheeky people will be commenting about political issues and all that. I have a different time for that, not during corporate hours. But yeah, it's don't dwell too much on the past because you might get stuck on that. And it's not going to be a productive talk between you and your staff if you always are focused on what happened in the past. There's a concept of recent focusing on recency and focusing on what happened in the past. There are two important factors when you're taking a look at root cause. The first would be not to have biases on someone who's just done something wrong and then judge him because you can't really move on from that mistake anymore that just happened, I don't know, 2 days ago. And then every little thing that person does in the future will just be judged because of that. The next one is if you're just so stuck in the past and you can't forgive someone anymore, that no matter how many times this person has changed, apologized, I don't know, knelt, asked for forgiveness, you just can't move on from the past and you're just stuck on it. um, we as leaders, we as professionals should not be focused on the past. The only time we're going to dig the past is if we cannot resolve the issue of now, and really we have to reopen the diaries of the past just so we could come up with very effective action items. um, so there, I think those are the only ones that I would like to highlight for today. Thank you all for listening, but don't go away. I think Jem will come back in a bit. There you are, Jem.
Yes.
And we'll come back for questions, I think.
Yes, it's always an interesting talk, Jel, whenever we delve into understanding our emotions, our motivations, and drive, because these topics sometimes, we cannot just focus on these or talk about these in related to organization. They go beyond, the organization. And I'm sure that our audiences right now are curious and ready to ask their questions related to motivation, related to drive. But before we get into that, we'll first take a quick break. And when we come back, we'll entertain some of the questions from our audiences. So, friends, don't go away. This is Thought Leaders with Jal Nolasco.
We all know what community is, but what does community feel like? It's the feeling you get watching the magpie family in your front yard patiently wait for you to bring them a snack. It's the feeling you get watching the kangaroos huddle together in the afternoon haze under the tree in your backyard. And it's the feeling you get seeing the flock of galahs swinging and playing on the telephone wire. But community is much more than a feeling. It's the way us Australians work together, through thick and thin. Being a community means being Australian. At Guild, we're here for some of your toughest days. We're here through the fires and then through the floods. We're here through the break-ins, the accidents and the mishaps. We're more than just an insurance company. We're the people you call when it's all gone wrong. You're part of our community, our family, and we look forward to protecting you not only now, but into the future. Guild Insurance, where community is what matters most. How do we protect our community?
Hands up if you want to retire richer. You go shopping, don't you? You like to save money? Super! That's exactly what Super Super is. Shopping plus savings equals super super. At Super Super, you get rewarded straight into your superannuation account. So instead of getting all these random points that you're probably never going to use, at Super Super, when you shop, you get money rewards that go straight into your superannuation account. For example, if you spend $100 at the grocery store, an additional $5 will be added to your superannuation account without you having to spend anything extra than that original $100. It sounds too good to be true, but it's not. Over time, your super balance grows every time you shop. Here's how it works. 1, sign up at our website. 2, select the vouchers that you want to purchase or the retailers that you want to shop with online. 3, pay using money that you've transferred into your My Cash account in Super Super, by credit or by debit card. 4, go shopping. 5, watch your Super Super rewards grow in your Super Super account. Shop and save more to your super every day with Super Super.
Shop it up and top it up. Shop, save, super, 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 super. Shop it up and top it up. Shop, save, super, 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 super.
Question now is, how can I practice gratitude in the workplace? I, as an individual, hold yourself accountable for looking for things that you appreciate. So you can commit yourself by writing what are you grateful for in a day, in a week. Mas nakakatulong yun para matrain natin yung sarili natin to look at the good side kapag ikaw ay gumagawa ng writing or ng journal. Because in every day, if you're writing it in a journal or you write your own thoughts there, if you train yourself, it become a habit. So later on, mas magiging natural sa'yo yung pagiging grateful. Say thank you. Show appreciation to people. Do little things to help you. And then the third one is the conscious effort to look for things to appreciate. Decide to tell someone you appreciate to your colleagues or your co-workers, yung mga qualities that you like about them, you appreciate them. Not only in the workplace, but lalo na sa loob ng tahanan, na yung asawa natin, anak natin. And then appreciate what you have and focus on what you have. So that is on the individual level. So ano naman yung way on how the organization can practice gratitude in the workplace? Of course, it starts with the leaders. Importante that the leaders are the role model for the expression of gratitude. So employees need to hear thank you publicly and privately for their contributions, whether little or big. So it matters to them. Goodbye activity to employee exit. This is a time to express your appreciation to their contributions and to their quality. Hopefully, we can create a culture in which pag-aalis na yung isang empleyado, we provide, siyempre, sa management level, expensive yan kung party. Why not a coffee time, a chat time with them, goodbye activity naman yan, in which you show your appreciation, in a simple way, dun sa tao na aalis. Yung mga goodbye activity na yan, kahit simple coffee, and then there are people showing they appreciate you, either on the management level down to the ranking or the rank and file. It's a good way to cultivate gratitude in a workplace. And when we are cultivating gratitude in the workplace, we promote safe work environment.
When building a successful career, a positive attitude plays a lot of importance. You may be good in terms of knowledge and skills, but a negative attitude, you will never reach the success you aspire for. You have to remember that attitude will allow us to, of course, understand, having that better understanding on how to deal with the different types of situations. You have to look beyond what you can see. Knowledge can be learned, well and true. Skills and competencies can be developed, again, very well and true. But having a positive attitude towards work and the people you work with shall help in creating a perspective of success. I have prescribed 3 very important things when you wish to have that right frame of mind, right attitude, when you build your career in any company that you work for. Passion is the beginning of success. Know your passion and enter into career that is aligned to that passion. Knowing your passion will determine the best career, Enter into something you love and enjoy doing, and it is most likely that you will be able to attain career growth. Next is the vision. To think is to create. What the mind can conceive, it will achieve. Now, create that vision, establish that vision. The law of attraction dictates that when you put it in your mind, then definitely it is bound to happen. You have to also put in place self-discipline. Without self-discipline, success is impossible. Non-negotiable, period, as per Lucas. On the other hand, by Napoleon Hill, self-discipline begins with the mastery of your thoughts. If you don't control what you think, you can't control what you do. Simply, self-discipline enables you to think first and act afterward. We are all responsible for the process of our daily. Your failure accounts to how you were in the past. That's why, you cannot blame anyone else why you are in a sorry state as of this point in time. Resiliency. This is very interesting. Don't easily give up on challenges that come your way. Patience. Resiliency comes from patience. You will not be able to become resilient if you do not have patience. There is no such thing as instant career growth. Climbing the career ladder requires time before you will be able to reach the top and reap the greatest rewards you have envisioned for you. One must have a positive attitude. Again, this is a repetition of what I shared earlier. You should have the right frame of mind. You should have that positive attitude all the time. If you believe you can, definitely you will. But if you believe that you cannot, then definitely you won't. And that is, what positive attitude is all about.
This is Enabling Media, enabling content through new media.
We're back. We surely learned a lot from Jel as he shared with us how to manage different levels of motivation in the organization, and that is focusing on now, the now. What can we do now? Isn't that right, Pancho? I'm calling again my partner with me.
Yes, Jem, I couldn't agree more. Yeah, and probably my biggest takeaway during the session is labeling or actually knowing your emotion, what your current state is, so how we could better address the situation.
Right, that's awesome. And now our request portal is open for our viewers in the Philippines who would like to request for a certificate of attendance. So just go to bit.ly/GSI cert and enter the information requested by the form. You can find that in our chat box. And again, go to bit.ly/GSI cert to request for a certificate of attendance. So Pancho, we have very good questions from our audience right now. So let's go to their questions and let's invite Jel once again to answer those questions for
Hmm.
us. All right. So what are the questions that we have right now, Pancho?
Yes, first one we have is from Jasmine Fundales Santos. The question is, how does age affect organization motivation?
Thanks for that question, Punch. And Jasmine, I think age does not affect an organization's level of motivation. What what only differs is the channel of the motivation. Say, for example, I've attended a lot of seminars regarding how to motivate millennials, only the channel is actually changed. Say for example, if I confront someone in the age 50s or 60s, if I ask him, would you like to have a boss who's corrupt or anything like that, definitely that person will say no, right? And if I ask a millennial the same type of question, definitely that person will say no. If I ask a person who's Gen Z, that person will still say the same thing. And the only thing that would be different would be how they're able to channel their motivation, or how you will be able to resolve the sources of motivation. Millennials would prefer, I think, from where I'm sitting, it would be easier to engage millennials by use of technology, chat. Sometimes they're not able to express their emotions or honesty face to face. Most millennials would feel that's too confrontational. Again, there might be maybe because there's a lot of technology available to the current generation that they prefer honesty to be broken down into them by means of technology. They feel that it's more digestible rather than you confronting people and telling them straight to their faces, which may have worked for generation in the past, but right now it's different. So again, I think it's only the channel that changed, by how you talk to them, by how you express what you want to tell them, and how they express back to you. So us as leaders would need to adapt to these kinds of changes. Say in the future, if Facebook is not in anymore, then maybe I need to start learning TikTok. I don't know. Or maybe when Ray tells me to log into Telegram, I won't think of it as the old Telegram that we used to have in the past, where you receive a message by means of regular telegram. So it's not that telegram anymore. So we really need to adapt to the changing times. Again, the people will still prefer the same old things that we liked in the past, but technology just changes us, and we have to adapt to these channels in order to become effective leaders. I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, awesome. Yes. We have another question. This one coming
Mm.
in from Jasmine Mape. What do you think is important to come first? Is it being motivated or doing action even if you're not motivated?
Oh, that's a very interesting question, isn't it? But life is tough. And I'd be honest to the young ones in this room right now. I came from a very tough life, one you could not imagine. So sometimes life challenges you when you're not ready at all. So there are times that you would have to do something even if you don't like it, and you end up liking it. So maybe what I'm trying to say is it depends on whatever is in front of you, because life will not wait for you to stand up. And I know I'm starting to sound like Joy in my example earlier, being toxic positive and all that. But life is tough, and we all of us would have to deal with that. There is a time for us to process things. I lost my mom and my brother in the same year due to cancer way back. Was that 2016? I think that was 2016. So I had to take a pause and process what happened, because it was very traumatic, not just for me, but also for my sons and my daughter and my wife as well, for my sisters, and what would be my only surviving parent at that time. It's very traumatic for all of us. But you have to process it. You can't pretend that life, just gave you a blow and then you stand up, forget about it, and you just continue moving on, because it will translate um, into different actions that you did not intend to do. Like you will become very violent. You will become you will start to become unhinged. You will start saying things that you didn't mean. So you really have to take time to process things that happened in your life, but at the same time, you can't wallow in it forever. So you have to strike that balance between processing reality and continuing to live on with life, because there are some hard realities that will just not wait for you to stand up. Bills will continue to come. Your electricity will get cut off if you continue to wallow in the sadness of life. And some other people are waiting for the same opportunities that are presented to you, to all of you right now. Some of the opportunities that you think are not for you are actually for someone else. So don't waste time. Maybe that's what I'm trying to say. There's always time to process things. There's always time to think about this, to think about that, but don't take too long, because if you take too long, opportunities will leave you, and if they leave you, they won't come back anymore. And this is the reason why those who are risk takers are more successful in life, because they already develop thick faces, and they're not daunted by opportunities anymore. They're like, "Mm, go ahead, give me that. I'll deal with it one way or another." And by the time you get through it, you'll realize, oh, I actually like it. um, I'm not sure if I can quote my sister, but maybe she can hate me later. She didn't like law from the beginning, but my brother was, not just take it, go ahead, you'll like it anyway, and she did. So sometimes you just have to test waters first, before you say no to it. Again, opportunities will just knock once in your life. It will not, believe me, it will not knock twice. If it does for the second time, and you said no to it, then you can come up with any negative adjective that you could tell yourself, but don't lose it. If you feel it's not for you, then it's not for you. But if it's an opportunity that you like and you said no to it, then maybe it's about time you face yourself in the mirror and ask why you said no. So I hope that answers the question. If you're not being motivated to do something, being motivated not to do something, and not doing something about it, even if you know that you need to do something about it, are two different things. Sometimes we just have to pick ourselves up. Maybe that's what I'm trying to say, Jasmine. Oh my gosh, I I, I just realized I sound like the priest on a Sunday mass who gave a. I feel like we need to have a hallelujah or a grand amen. Sorry, sorry, Jem. Go ahead.
All right.
Yes.
Pancho, third
Uh,
question.
yeah, third and final question. Unfortunately, this is the only time that we have. Can you give us a specific habit that can increase our motivation?
Oh, motivation is not fuel.
that you can buy you can buy outside, park, and then pay a gas boy, and tell them, okay, feed me more motivation. It doesn't work like that, Karen. Motivation is either intrinsic or extrinsic, just like what we presented earlier. How do you increase it? I'm afraid you can't. It's something that you already have. um, Out of all the theories that I read, I think that's the same amongst all of them. You can motivate someone, but you cannot increase motivation. You can always, maybe motivate is not the verb I'm looking for. You can always influence someone, but for you to increase someone else's motivation is not the right, it's not the right thought for it. You can only influence, but not really motivate. Maybe your question can be rephrased into, what are the things you can do to discover your motivation? And the only thing that I can tell you is to say yes to opportunities. So if your leader is stretching you, and is presenting opportunities to you that you've never done before, if you're saying no to it because that's not part of your personal goal, then that's fine. But if it's part of your personal goal, it will help develop you, and you said no to it, you need to ask yourself why you actually said no to it. If you said no to it just because you're afraid, you're too lazy to do it, then you're just going to be stuck in wherever you're at the moment. You have to keep telling yourself, and you have to talk to yourself and shut that little mind, that little voice in your head that says you cannot do it, or I'm too tired, I'm too lazy. These are the voices you need to get rid of in order for you to discover the right motivation you have in your life. If you always listen to the voices that tell you, oh, I'm too lazy to do this, oh, today's not the right time, I don't have time for this, but you are saying no to an opportunity that could make or break your career, that could bring the wealth of opportunities that you have been looking for in the past, then that only that would sidetrack you for a long time. Most especially right now, there's lots of Filipinos who lost their jobs during the pandemic. um, People are motivated, are economically to motivated to say yes to any opportunity out there. So in all of us who have jobs right now are actually, should feel threatened that there are a lot of people looking out to get the opportunities that we're currently at. Now, I'm not saying that for you, to be successful, you just have to stay there and swallow every little challenge thrown at you, whether you liked it or not. No, I'm not saying you should endure torture. I'm not saying that you should endure things that you do not deserve. But again, if an opportunity is presented over to you, you should go ahead and try it, even if that little voice in your mind is telling you that you cannot do it, or you're not fit for it, or you don't deserve it. Because I'm telling you, all of you right now who are in this in this um, in this webinar, I won't be in this position if I said no to those opportunities in the past. So don't.
All right. Thank you so much, Jel, for answering that last question. Those are our questions for today. Our dear viewers, thank you to those who raised their questions. And of course, apologies to those who are unanswered. We'll try our best to answer them in the comments after this webinar. So, Pancho, thank you so much for moderating and co hosting with me. I'll see you very soon. Thanks.
Thank
Thank you.
you, Jam.
All
Bye.
right. So, Jel, thank you for being here today. As always, it's really a great session. We've learned a lot from you, and I'm sure that our viewers also did too. The viewers have very good questions. So, again, thank you so much for answering, and we hope, again, that this will not be the last time that we'll see you here on our Thought Leaders. We always have our roulette of speakers. So, we hope to see you again soon, Jel. Thank you to all of you for joining us today. We hope that you learned a lot from this session. In behalf of our technical director, Sam Sutare, creative director, Jel Nolasco, today's social media host, Pancho Madlangsakay, my name is Gemma Nalansang, and this is our Enabling Media, enabling content through new media. Maraming salamat po and see you on our next session. Good day.
This edition of Thought Leaders is brought to you by Enabling Media, enabling content through new media. Catch the latest episodes of Thought Leaders on our YouTube channel. Follow us on our social media and visit our website guildsolutionsinc.com.au.